The harsh life inside North Korea's pleasure squad. North Korea is the most secretive country in the world, especially with Kim Jong-un, one of the most feared dictators globally. In a land where freedom is only a distant dream, lies the tragic life of beautiful young women. They are like fresh flowers plucked from their garden, encaged in a gilded prison, and turned into puppets for the amusement of a dictator. This is the infamous entertainment troupe of Kim Jong-un, a machine that crushes dreams, where beauty is the deadliest weapon, and suffering is an indispensable ingredient. Have you ever wondered about the forced smiles in propaganda photos, or the glamorous dresses in grand ceremonies? Behind them is a brutal reality. Young girls are imprisoned, with every aspect of their lives controlled, from their hairstyles and clothing to their private thoughts. They are forced to abandon their families, friends, and even their own identities to become gifts for North Korea's elite. Let's tear away that shiny mask and uncover the darkest secrets of a dictatorship. Together, we'll dive deep into the world of these young women, where fear lurks at every turn and hope is a forbidden word. Do you have the courage to face the harsh truth about their lives? Number 16. The Pleasure Squad. Under Kim Jong-un's rule, North Korea is not only wrapped in strict regulations and unpredictable secrets, but also hides a lesser-known facet: the entertainment troupe. This is not an ordinary unit. It consists of 30 to 40 young women carefully selected and secretly trained for one sole purpose: to serve and entertain the supreme leader and the regime's top officials. The selection and training process for these members can be considered a cruel test. Ideal candidates are usually young girls between the ages of 14 and 25, an age group thought to be easily influenced and molded according to the regime's strict requirements. They must not only meet stringent physical appearance standards but also undergo physical and health examinations to ensure they meet the beauty and fitness criteria. After being chosen, these women continue through an intense training program. They are taught how to serve tea, dine, and communicate appropriately in the presence of high-ranking officials. Additionally, they are trained in entertainment skills like singing, dancing, and playing instruments to ensure they can perform excellently at any event they are required to attend. Their daily lives are strictly monitored, from grueling training sessions to preparations for performances. Their free time is severely restricted, and they are entirely cut off from the outside world, including their own families, making them completely dependent on the regime. The origin of this pleasure squad dates to the 1970s, when Kim Il-sung, Kim Jong-un's grandfather, initiated the first pleasure squads. Although the existence of such groups was kept secret for decades, defectors have shed light on the painful reality behind the glamorous facade. There is information that members of this troupe undergo mysterious training and intimate services, where their skills are tailored to meet the demands of the highest echelons of power, including the supreme leader. Furthermore, disturbing activities, such as virginity checks, are rumored to be part of the group's hidden practices. The existence and operations of the pleasure squad raise many questions about the lives and fates of these women, and highlight a troubling aspect of the North Korean regime. What do you think about this troupe? Share your thoughts below. Number 15. Restrictions on contraceptives and sanitary pads. In the shrouded mist of North Korea, where supreme power controls every corner of life, a haunting story is unfolding. It is the story of women's small lives crushed under the iron heel of dictatorship. Imagine a world where protecting oneself from dangerous diseases or simply maintaining personal hygiene during menstruation becomes a rare privilege. This is the reality millions of North Korean women face. While the outside world races to explore distant planets here, women still grapple with the most rudimentary and shocking reproductive challenges. Condoms and sanitary pads, items seemingly ordinary in daily life, have become as rare as gold. They are banned, turned into black market commodities with prices soaring. Torn rags and moldy cloths serve as makeshift sanitary pads laden with infection risks. Why? Why can a regime be so cruel? The answer is simple yet heartbreaking. To boost the population, to create more labor slaves for the massive state machinery, North Korean women are turned into reproductive machines, stripped of the right to make decisions about their own bodies. Abortion is a crime, bringing with it horrific punishments. Can you imagine the pain and despair of women living in such a society, where their bodies become political tools and their right to motherhood is ruthlessly stolen? The story remains filled with mystery and haunting shadows. Let's dive deeper into the lives of North Korean women, their fragile hopes, and their relentless struggles. Number 14. Smiling is forbidden in 2021. While the world was celebrating the new year with joy, a somber atmosphere engulfed a corner of the Korean peninsula. Under the cold gaze of massive statues, North Koreans were forced to bury their smiles for 11 days in remembrance of the late leader, Kim Jong-il. Imagine a country where smiling becomes a crime. People are turned into emotionless machines living in fear of punishment. On silent streets, footsteps echo uniformly with not a single sound of laughter. People pass each other like ghosts, their eyes hollow, devoid of hope. Even during these days of mourning, if a loved one dies, they are not allowed to cry out loud. Pain is suppressed, and tears are swallowed. Death becomes a monotone event, with no mourning cries, no words of farewell. At noon, alarm sirens blare across the country, a cruel reminder of loss and pain. Everyone must bow their heads, eyes closed, in remembrance of a man they've never met, only seen in propaganda images. Mansu Hill, where massive statues of 2 generations of the Kim family leaders stand, becomes a pilgrimage site of fear. Millions of people line up, bowing before the cold stone statues like soulless puppets. Number 13. Divorce is forbidden in North Korea. Where every aspect of life is tightly controlled, marriage is not just a personal choice but also a tool to consolidate power. Divorce, something simple and natural in many parts of the world, is an unforgivable crime. Imagine a woman, her eyes filled with tears, looking into the mirror. Her face is etched with deep wrinkles, her frail shoulders burdened with countless sorrows. She has lived in a loveless marriage, abused both physically and mentally by her husband. Every day is a living hell, but she has no escape. Divorce, it's a distant dream, a forbidden act. If she dares to dream of ending her marriage, she will face social stigma. She will be seen as a traitor, a wicked woman. Her children will be shunned by their peers, teased and ostracized. Worst of all, she may lose all her rights, even be sent into a re-education camp. Why is divorce a crime? Because the dictatorship wants to control every aspect of its citizens' lives, from marriage to reproduction. A broken marriage is seen as a sign of social weakness, a challenge to state power. This woman's story is just one of millions of heartbreaking tales. They are victims of an unjust system where love, happiness, and freedom are trampled. Number 12. Forced to bear sons. In North Korea, where patriarchal traditions remain heavy, giving birth to a son is considered a sacred duty for women. A son is not only the hope of the family, but also the future of the regime. As a result, the pressure to bear sons weighs heavily on women, turning them into mere reproductive machines. Imagine a young woman, her eyes filled with sadness, sitting beside an empty crib. She has given birth to many daughters, but still has not had a son. Her husband looks at her with disdain, her in-laws scorn her, and neighbors gossip. She feels like a sinner, a failure as a woman. Not having a son not only brings emotional pain, but also threatens a woman's social status. They may be abandoned by their husbands, rejected by their families, and even ostracized by society. In a society where a woman's value is measured by the number of sons she bears, these women have no place. What's worse, the government doesn't support these women. Instead, it enforces policies that encourage the birth of sons, creating a social environment riddled with gender biases. The situation is so severe that the North Korean government does not hesitate to permit divorce on the grounds of not having a son. After a divorce, women are often left empty-handed, with no assets or rights. This injustice has become a powerful driving force, pushing many women to risk everything to escape their country. While the number of men attempting to flee North Korea is not as high. Number 11. Blue jeans are banned in North Korea. In North Korea, blue jeans are banned because the government sees them as a symbol of American imperialism and Western influence. This ban aims to convey a clear message of the government's disapproval of the West, especially the United States. The restrictions on fashion go far beyond the ban on blue jeans. The government tightly controls what citizens can wear, dictating what is deemed appropriate and preventing outside influence. This control over clothing seems to be part of the government's broader strategy to protect the country from outside influences. For instance, high heels are considered too extravagant for daily wear. Men are required to keep their hair short. Women have specific regulations regarding hairstyles. Skirts and dresses must be longer than knee length. No revealing or tight-fitting outfits are allowed. However, people always yearn for freedom. Despite these prohibitions, many still find ways to own blue jeans, even willing to pay a high price on the black market. They wear them discreetly as a subtle form of defiance against the regime, a quiet assertion of individuality. The irony lies in the fact that while the public lives under such strict control, the elite are free to indulge in luxuries, including wearing fashionable clothes. This stark contrast exposes the injustice and hypocrisy. The story of blue jeans is not just about fashion but about the desire for freedom, the struggle between the individual and authority. It demonstrates that no matter how oppressed people may be, they always find ways to express themselves and affirm their value. Questions arise. Could blue jeans ever become a symbol of revolution? Will the people of North Korea ever be free to choose their clothing and way of life? Behind the velvet curtain of grand political events, the capital of North Korea, Pyongyang, conceals a harsh reality. A massive prison where millions are confined within invisible cages. Every step, every breath of the people here is closely monitored by the authorities. From their choice of residence to their daily movements to set foot in Pyongyang, citizens must pass through a wall of paperwork and permissions. Even the slightest dust on your car could subject you to severe punishments. Don't dream of freely roaming the wide streets. Every journey requires a special permit issued by the government. The capital, with its towering buildings gleaming in neon lights, becomes a dazzling facade that hides the darker corners. Residents live in pre-assigned apartments, work in factories under strict orders, and entertain themselves according to predetermined patterns. They are like puppets in a meticulously staged play, devoid of choice and the right to resist. But why does the government tighten control so strictly? Is there something hidden behind the glamorous facade of Pyongyang, or is it simply an invisible fear that drives them to maintain absolute power? This question remains unanswered, and the truth may only be uncovered in the future. One thing is certain though, life for the people of Pyongyang is a tragic tale, a clear testament to the brutality of dictatorship. In North Korea, where information is tightly controlled, making international phone calls isn't just a basic need, but a distant dream. Every time someone picks up the phone, it's as though they're touching a thin boundary between freedom and control. Research by Amnesty International has shed light on the strict governmental control over communication technology, especially regarding contact with countries deemed adversaries, which is entirely banned. Violating this can lead to imprisonment. Imagine a middle-aged woman, her eyes filled with tears, staring at an old phone. Her son crossed the border into South Korea years ago, and she yearns to hear his voice, to know how he is living. But how could she when every international call is a crime? The ban on international calls not only deprives people of the right to communicate with loved ones, but is also a way for the government to isolate its citizens, preventing them from interacting with the outside world. They want to turn people into islands, living in an artificial world of their making. Each international phone call becomes a perilous adventure. Those daring enough to attempt it risk imprisonment, torture, or having all their rights stripped away. They become hostages of a dictatorial regime. In recent years, North Korea has tightened its grip on telecommunications, particularly after Kim Jong-un took power in 2011. This increased control is driven by rising concerns about the threat modern technology poses to the government's control and the stability of the country. In this world's most dictatorial country, hairstyles are not just a matter of aesthetics, but are strictly regulated by the government. This rule applies to both men and women, with a list of about 30 approved hairstyles. Choices are mostly limited to traditional styles, completely excluding modern trends like spiky hair or layered cuts. Young men must keep their hair short and trimmed regularly, not exceeding 5 centimeters, and have a haircut every 2 weeks. Women, on the other hand, have slightly more options, with married women allowed to adopt more elaborate hairstyles than single women. Controlling hairstyles isn't just a ban on aesthetics. It's a way for the government to control people's thoughts, to prevent the infiltration of Western culture. They want to turn their citizens into puppets, devoid of personal thoughts or individuality. A young boy with naturally curly hair is constantly teased by his friends for not adhering to the regulations. He wishes he could cut his hair short like the soldiers in propaganda posters, but fears being caught and punished. He feels lost and alone in a world where everyone is the same. The irony is that while citizens live under this suppression, the leadership freely enjoys luxurious pleasures, including changing their hairstyles regularly. This exposes the injustice and hypocrisy of the regime. The story of forbidden hairstyles isn't just about fashion, but also about the longing for freedom and the struggle between individual expression and authority. It shows that no matter how oppressed people are, they always find ways to express themselves and affirm their value. Number 7. Women are not allowed to drive. Imagine empty streets where cars glide by under the steady hands of men, while women can only sit behind the wheels of bicycles. Difficult to imagine in a modern society, North Korean authorities offer a ridiculous reason. Women cause too many accidents. But is there any real evidence for this? Or is it just a deep-rooted gender bias, an outdated notion that women belong only in the kitchen? It's ironic that North Korean women can serve as traffic police, even drive official vehicles, yet are banned from driving personal cars. This raises even more questions about the injustice and restrictions women face in this society. This ban is not just an isolated issue, but reflects a larger picture of women's status in North Korea. When will these outdated rules change, so that women can freely showcase their abilities and contribute to the country's development? The story of North Korean women longing to drive, to freely explore the world outside, will surely move and challenge you. Let's search for answers to these questions and explore more about the country and its people. Number 6. Beauty standards regulations. In a world where women are free to express their individuality through fashion, in North Korea, even choosing a nail polish color or lipstick can be seen as an act of defiance. Here, beauty is not a choice, but a mandate. A mandate established by a dictatorship where everything, including beauty, must serve political purposes. The image of young girls with rosy lips and blush, confidently walking down the street, is a far-fetched dream for North Korean women. Instead, they live in a gray world where natural beauty is confined to rigid frameworks. A red lipstick or a light layer of powder is enough to label them as rebellious. The ban on red lipstick is not just an aesthetic rule, it's a way to control people's thoughts. Red has long been considered a symbol of passion, of rebellion, and the government wants to extinguish any fire burning within the hearts of its citizens. However, people always find ways to push beyond limits. Despite the restrictions, North Korean women still find ways to beautify themselves. They secretly buy and sell cosmetics on the black market, crafting homemade beauty products, and they always dream of a day when they can freely choose their own style. Number 5. Women are banned from riding bicycles. In addition to the debates over driving, North Korean women face another restriction. They are not allowed to ride bicycles by law. History shows a complex relationship between the North Korean government and bicycles. Unlike many other countries where bicycles have been widely accepted as a personal means of transportation for decades, North Korea showed little interest until 1992, when bicycles were completely banned on the streets of Pyongyang. This ban was strictly enforced, making bicycles a rare sight in the capital. The ban on women riding bicycles is said to have been established by Kim Jong-il, the former leader of North Korea. There are many reasons and rumors surrounding the origin of this rule. One explanation suggests that Kim Jong-il, known for his conservative views on women, believed that seeing women on bicycles could be too provocative and damage public morality. The government's justification for this ban is absurd. They claim that women riding bicycles cause more accidents, but in reality, the opposite is true. Bicycles are a safe and environmentally friendly means of transportation, so why are women treated so unfairly? The answer lies in deep-rooted gender biases. In traditional society, women were expected to stay home and take care of their families, not to engage in activities typically reserved for men. Riding a bicycle, considered a male activity, was naturally banned for women. This ban is not only discriminatory, but also humiliating, stripping women of their dignity. It shows that women are not trusted or empowered. Number 4. No career choice. In a country where people are born not to choose but to be chosen, dreaming becomes a luxury. In North Korea, every individual is just a cog in the massive state machine, controlled and assigned positions they never desired. Their lives are a series of repetitive days without purpose, without passion. The image of young people full of enthusiasm, dreaming big, studying hard for university exams, and then starting a new journey, is far too distant for North Korean youth. They are deprived of the right to decide their own future, forced to live according to a predetermined script. The lack of career choice not only affects individuals, but also hinders the development of the entire nation. When talent is not nurtured and creativity is stifled, the country remains in darkness and backwardness. The labor assignment system is an iron cage that traps human talent and dreams. But the question arises, can a society develop sustainably when its people are not allowed to freely choose their own path? Number 3. Women as the main breadwinners. In a society where men are glorified, North Korean women quietly bear the burden of supporting their families. As the state economy collapsed, men with meager salaries from state agencies or the military, meanwhile, women with their strong survival instincts quickly seized opportunities and became the economic pillars of their households. In bustling markets, the sight of women with strong voices and heavy loads of goods on their shoulders has become familiar. They not only provide essential items but are also savvy traders ready to face any hardship to provide for their families. Behind this success lies silent sacrifice. While men are sheltered by society, women face countless challenges, earning a living and caring for their families. They endure discrimination, skeptical glances, and social prejudices. Yet it is these challenges that have forged strong, independent women. They are no longer fragile flowers but resilient warriors, ready to confront any obstacle. Number 2. Ban on South Korean dramas. North Korea, an isolated island in the East Sea, has erected an iron wall, not only made of concrete and barbed wire but also of strict regulations and tight control. This wall was built to block a weapon more powerful than any missile, the H-wave, particularly the mesmerizing South Korean dramas. Dramas with romantic love stories as delicate as the morning mist and dramatic struggles as fierce as ocean storms have become a global fever. But in North Korea they are seen as a dangerous virus capable of infecting minds and eroding the regime. Why? Because within every frame of a K-drama lies the seeds of freedom, the desire to live a meaningful life and human values that a dictatorship always seeks to extinguish. Romantic dramas with their sweet kisses and warm embraces have become a nightmare for those in power. They fear that people will compare their own stifling lives to the glittering images on screen, breeding dissatisfaction. They fear that the stories of friendship and family love will awaken deep desires in each person's heart, inspiring them to stand up and fight for a better life. To prevent the epidemic of K-dramas, the North Korean government has not hesitated to use brutal measures. Possessing a USB containing South Korean films can lead to terrible punishments, even the death penalty. Yet the power of culture cannot be stopped. Like tiny seeds finding cracks in a wall to sprout, South Korean dramas still quietly find their way into the lives of North Korean people. They secretly watch them in the dark, pass around old DVDs, and together dream of a brighter tomorrow. K-dramas are not just entertainment, they are a beacon of hope, shining in the darkness. They bring the North Korean people belief in a better future, a future where they are free to live, love, and dream. Number 1. Restrictions on travel. In a world where travel has become easier than ever, North Korean women are trapped in an invisible cage. They are deprived of the freedom to move, restricted from exploring the outside world. Every step they take is monitored, and every decision must be approved by the government. The image of young women dreaming of setting foot in distant lands and exploring different cultures is a far-off fantasy for North Korean women. They are confined to a narrow space where everything is tightly controlled. Travel restrictions not only affect women's personal lives but also hinder the development of an entire nation. When talents cannot interact, when knowledge cannot be shared, the country remains in darkness and backwardness. The travel ban is a tool for control and oppression. By limiting people's movement, the government seeks to prevent the spread of new ideas and values. They want to keep the people in a state of fear and dependence. So, we have explored a surprising corner of North Korean society, the harsh rules imposed specifically on women. But the story doesn't end there. Do you know that behind the dry statistics is a world full of emotions, stories of life, hope, and dreams of these women? Well, there will come a day when the doors will open, and North Korean women will enjoy the freedom of life like others. Join us as we continue the journey to find the answers. Don't forget to share your thoughts.